Hey YouTubers, got another video review for you today. This one is not just on the IcyBreeze coolers, because I've already done a video on both of those, but pretty much just on their accessories. Plus, I wanted to answer some questions about the IcyBreeze coolers. Since my last video, I've had a bunch of questions from people asking me some of the most outrageous questions and stuff, and so I just wanted to clear it up and so people kind of get an idea of what this thing's capable of. Well, a lot of the questions that I get asked on a daily basis about these coolers is, are they able to keep my house cold? No, you're not going to be able to go off the grid and turn your breaker off to your air conditioner for your house and expect this thing to keep your house ice cold. No, that's not the way that it's going to work. Will it cool a travel trailer that's 25 foot long? No. The answer is just no. You're expecting way too much out of such a small unit. The best way to describe how much it puts out is take pretty much the vent in your car, turn your air conditioning on high, and imagine one vent blowing out. Imagine that air being, cooler than your car, but with about the same amount of force coming out. They claim that it can blow up to like 25 miles an hour. I don't have any way to check that to see exactly how much force it's blowing out with, but that's what IcyBreeze says. It's 25 miles an hour. And so just think, would that one vent be able to cool my whole house? Would it be able to cool, a whole travel trailer? No. Somebody asked me, said, hey, if I got two of these things, do you think that it would keep a race car trailer cold, or cool it down with a race car in it with the door down? And I'm like, no. I mean, you got to think about it. You pull a hot race car in there, and your engine temps are going to be, depending on how hot it is, they're going to be way up there. And so you're going to have a hot race car, plus it's going to be out in the sun. Then you're going to pull it into an enclosed area. There's no way that two of these is going to be able to cool a big trailer down like that with a hot race car in it, with it, the sun pounding down on the trailer. There's just no possible way. So what are these good for? Well, let's say you're out camping and you're in a tent. Everybody knows at nighttime in the summertime it gets hot, humid, and this would just help keep cool, dry air blowing on you. Now, I get the question asked all the time, well, how long does the ice last? Well, it just depends. If it's 100 degrees outside and the sun is blaring down right on the cooler and the cooler's not in the shade, it's going to not last nowhere near as long as if you put the cooler somewhere in the shade and it's not as hot outside. Make sense? Well, also, as far as the amount of ice that you put in it, what kind of ice do you put in it? Are you putting bags of ice in there? Are they little pieces or bigger pieces? Are they ice bottles that you're freezing and putting in there? Or are they gallon-sized bottles? You got to ask yourself, you guys ask me questions that there's no possible way I could know the answer to. Somebody asked me, well, how long does the battery last? Well, I'm sorry, I ain't gonna sit around with a stopwatch and try to just wait for this thing to turn off. You've got to use some common sense when you use these things. They're not meant to tackle such a big task. You've got to be realistic with these. They're great coolers. They work great. They cool your drinks down, and the air conditioning part on it works great. But again, you're not going to be able to cool your whole house with it. Now, I would say that if you got in a pinch and your air conditioning went out in your car, I guarantee you put this in your back seat, you turn it on high, put some ice in there, yeah, it's going to cool your car down. Somebody messaged me and said, hey, I've got an old vintage car. I want to go on a road trip and see the United States. Do you think this would cool it down? Yeah, I really do. I think if you had, 25, 30 pounds of ice in here and you topped it off every 3 or 4 hours with another 10-pound bag of ice, yeah, I really believe that it would be comfortable in your vehicle, depending on where you're at in this country. You know, if you're going through Death Valley, then yeah, it might get a little uncomfortable because you're in the desert. But anyways, I'm just saying, you know, conditions vary with these coolers, and you know, the type of ice you use, how hot it is outside, is it in the direct sun? These are just questions that, you know, nobody knows the answer to. You know, it's because conditions are always changing. So you got to use common sense with it. And again, you know, you're not going to get an all-day battery life out of a 6-amp-an-hour battery. It's not going to run all day on high on a 6.5 or a 6-amp-an-hour battery. It's just not possible. They can't pack that much juice into such a small battery. Even the 10-amp-an-hour battery, I don't personally have one, but I just know that it's not possible to run that thing for, you know, all day on high, and you know, it still run the coolers, you know. So now I will say that somebody says, well, what's really the difference between the coolers? Just the look of them, and one of them can charge your phone and one of them can't? Well, yeah, that's one difference. The difference, if you look at the coolers, is the Platinum version has like a styling cue right here in the front, so it looks a little bit different. That's probably not important to some of you, but you know, some of you might like the look of this one better than this one, or vice versa. So the looks of them is a little bit different. As far as the wheels, the handles, the lids, pretty much everything, you know, is pretty much the same, except the difference on the body lines. Now on the tops, they're a little bit different. Come closer and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, like I said, the difference is right in here on the control panel. This is the version 2. This is the older model that they had last year. And you can see right in here, it's got the toggle switch where when you push it all the way up, it turns it to the off position. You bring it one click down, now it's on low. One more click, medium. One more click, high. You go over to the Platinum model, and this is where it's new. When you turn it on, you still have a high, a medium, and a low, but you just have an arrow. You don't have the little toggle, the manual switch. But it has something different. Right here, it has a button that says Extreme Cool. While it's on Extreme Cool, the water pump on the inside of the cooler is circulating the water, just like the version 2. Okay, it's doing just like the version 2 does, and that's the way that you're going to get the coldest air. So the reason they come, the Platinum model comes with this Extreme Cool button, is so you can turn it off of Extreme Cool, and when you turn it off of Extreme Cool, it stops circulating the cold water. And so all it does then is just takes the cold air from the ice and blows it out the tube. It doesn't circulate the water up through the heat exchanger, and it doesn't run that pump. So yeah, the ice is not going to be, or the air is not going to be as cold when you turn that Extreme Cool mode off. Also, right here, you have a USB charger, so you can charge your phone. Now keep in mind, if you're running this thing with the battery in there, and you know, you're trying to charge your phone at the same time, you're not going to be able to get the full amount of time running the IcyBreeze, because now you're trying to charge your phone and run the IcyBreeze at the same time, so the battery is not going to last as long. So keep that in mind. So if you've got a 10 amp an hour battery and you've got your big old cell phone plugged into here, you're trying to charge an iPad or a tablet or whatever from this charging port, your battery is not going to last long, folks. So this 10-foot cable will plug into your cigarette lighter in your car. Let's just say, plug in your car. It's got a little light on it right here to let you know it's getting power. And then this end here gets plugged in to the IcyBreeze. Okay, when it's plugged up like this, it is not going to charge this battery. It's only going to provide power to the cooler. It's not going to charge the battery that's over here. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate for you. I've got the IcyBreeze battery, and you can see right here, this is the 6 amp an hour, 12 volt lithium ion battery. Right here on the front, it has a battery life indicator on it. So you can see right there, it's fully charged. And then when you plug it in, you know, it's going to turn on. And let's go ahead and plug this power cord so I can show you that it's running on the battery. And you can hear the fan kick on. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hook up this to the cooler, and I'm going to plug the other end into a 12 volt power source to simulate it being plugged up in your car's electrical system. So stay tuned. Okay, so the way that I'm going to simulate getting 12 volt power is, you know, since, you know, it's raining outside and I don't have a cigarette lighter to plug the cooler into, is I'm going to use one of these 12 volt power sources. Now you can go to Walmart and buy one of these jump starters. You probably already have one laying around. Now this one here is old and it doesn't work anymore, but you can see that it has a cigarette lighter plug there on the front, and it did work at one time. So, you know, you could plug this in, and who knows, you might get an hour, you might get 2 hours, you might get 3 or 4 hours. I don't know, depending on the condition of the battery, how old this thing is. You know, if it's new, it's going to last longer than if it's 3 or 4 years old, if it even lasts that long. I never get but a couple years out of these things, and then they're just useless. But, you know, I've got a smaller one here, and I did a review on this, and so that's why I have an extra one of these. But this is a more updated version because it uses a better battery than this. So it's smaller, but it's powerful. So basically what this is just a smaller version of that. You can see that it's got some jumper cables that plugs in to the side. I'm not going to be needing those, so I'm just going to unplug it, leave it to the side. And then on this other end, you've got a charging port. You've got a USB port to charge your phone, and then they give you another port right here to plug in their little cigarette lighter adapter. Now this is not an IcyBreeze product here. This is just a product that I reviewed, and you know, you can check it out down below. A lot of people have reviewed these things. They're jump starters. This thing here has like a 20,000 milliamp an hour battery, and because it has a big battery in it, you know, there's no telling how long it will last. So don't ask me a question. How long will the IcyBreeze run on high with this Hulkman jump starter on there? I have no clue. I'm not going to sit around with a stopwatch all day just to time this thing to see how many minutes it's going to run or hours it's going to run. You know, I'm just saying, this is, you know, you plug your 12 volt power source in here, and it's the same thing as being plugged into your car. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, guys. Now I have the jump starter plugged into the cigarette lighter plugged into the jump starter. You can see there's 12 volt power, and you've got the cord just running across right here, and it's not plugged in to the IcyBreeze yet. I'm still running it on the battery, and you can hear that it's running from the battery only. I got the cord right here in my hand, so there's no 12 volt power introduced to the system yet. But watch what happens when I plug the 12 volt of power from the cigarette lighter in while it's running off the battery. Watch what happens. It turns off, and then it pauses, and then it turns back on, and it starts running faster. Yeah, it starts running a little bit faster. You know why? It's because it's running off a more powerful source, because it's got, you know, it's got 12 volts over here, and you know, it's going to be really strong because you've got a full 100% charged battery, as opposed to one that's not. It's been running for a few minutes, but you know, it's able to pick up more power when it's plugged in like this. So if it's plugged into your car, it's going to run a little bit harder than if it's running off of a battery. So you've seen what happens is it turns it off from running from the battery and goes right to the 12-volt source that's plugged in. It prioritizes it so it doesn't sit there and run your battery down, and then when the batteries run down, it starts with this. No, once you plug this in, it stops getting power from the battery. And I can prove that. I can take that loose right there, and we'll set it aside. As soon as I unplug it, it just quits running. Let's try it again. Put this back in there. Okay, you have to turn it back on. Now it's on low. You can see right there, it's on low. Now watch what happens when I introduce 12 volt. Yeah, it has a different sound to it. It's because it's spinning a little bit faster. So yeah, when you have it plugged into the wall or plugged into a 12 volt power source, yeah, you're going to get better performance than with it being plugged into a battery. This is just a short-term solution. Let's say you go to a ball game or something like that, you don't have power nearby, then you use a battery. Let's say you're camping out in the middle of the woods, there's no electricity nearby, well, you're going to want to use the battery. Let's say you've got access to plug-in power at a campground or something, then of course I would run it off of a 110, or if you've got solar power coming in and you've got a big enough battery bank that's being charged by solar to run this thing, then by all means, plug it into a battery bank or just whatever you have. On to the next question. Okay, with Platinum model, let's say I disconnect this and the battery is connected. Will it continue to run after you disconnect this? No. It goes dead. It turns off. The way that you have to turn it back on is just hit the power button, and now it's getting its power from the battery. It's not going to stay running. It just shuts itself off. That's one thing you need to know. Now, if you have the version 2 model that has the manual switch right in here, where you can control it by toggling the switch here, then you can hear that it's on high. I've got the battery plugged into it, but let's say I go ahead and introduce this power cord and a 12 volt power source to it, and I plug it in. Listen to what happens. It pauses, and then it starts running faster. Okay, what's going to happen if I unplug the battery? Will it maintain and still run, or will it die off like the Platinum model? Well, when you unplug it, this one still runs, simply because it's got a manual type of switch, so it's not like it resets and goes to off and you have to turn it back on like you do with the electric model. So that is one benefit of the version 2. So let's say the power goes out at night and you've got this thing plugged up into your RV, and for some reason there's a power outage. Okay, you disconnect the power, and if you've got the battery plugged in, it's going to turn back on and continue to run. So that is an advantage, if there was a power outage or something like that. But so I'm going to show you one more time. It's running on the battery right now, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce 12 volt power to it. And you can automatically hear it pauses for a second, and then it ramps back up, and it appears to me that it's causing the fan to run faster. So by all means, if you have a power source, plug it into it. Now, like I said, I don't know how long this Hulkman jump starter will last, or whatever kind of jump starter you have at your house, or if you've got a solar power bank, or if you've got a gas generator. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, or any of those details. I don't have the specs on that, and I don't know how long you've had it and the condition of your battery, and all that. So don't ask me how long it's going to last, because nobody knows.
But you can see that this thing's been running for, 15 minutes, and I went from 100% battery life down to 93. So, it does consume just a little bit of power. It's not much at all, but you can only pack so much into a battery. And like I said, this one here is a 6 amp an hour. They do make the upgraded 10 amp an hour. It's going to last you a little bit longer. So somebody asked me, well, how does the battery charger work? Okay, well, it's very simple. It's just like any other power tool battery. There's really nothing to it. You can mount it on, just leave it on a counter, or you can mount it on the wall. You can see where it's got some mounts right there on each side. And, you just take and slide this part of your battery down onto the charger right there until it hooks in. And then when it hooks in, this red light will come on, and it's sensing the battery, trying to figure out, what condition it's in, how much charge it has. So it tells you right here that if it's flashing, then that means that it's charging. So I don't know how good you can see that right there, but right there at the top, it shows that if it's flashing, then it's charging. If it's full charge, it's just going to stay solid. Now, before you ask, how long does it take to charge the battery? Well, don't know. I've never sat here with a stopwatch and, sit here and just video recorded and look at a stopwatch and said, hey, it takes, 2 hours and 26 minutes and 2 seconds. No, it just really depends on how big the battery is, how much charge it has on it. So if it's fully charged or got most of a charge, it's not going to take it as long as if it's almost dead. Doesn't that make sense? So, it just depends. If you've got a 10 amp an hour battery that's bigger, of course, it's going to take longer to charge it than it would a 6 amp an hour battery. It has more capacity. So, I don't know what state your battery is in. I don't know how old it is. Sometimes these batteries get old, and after several years, and they start losing their ability to charges and hold a charge as well. So as with anything, these batteries are not going to last forever. They are eventually going to go bad, and they're going to get to the point to where they're not going to want to charge anymore. Who knows how long that'll be? That could be a year, that could be 2 years, 3 years, it just really depends. I don't know. I've not had this long term enough to tell you how long a battery lasts. Actually, this is the battery from almost a year ago from the version 2. So I didn't get a battery on the Platinum. So, I don't know. Don't know how long this thing's going to last. But, I know it's a lithium ion, and they do last a lot longer than some of the older style batteries. So that is a major plus. It's a good quality battery. On to the next question. Some of you people have said, well, I've tested a DeWalt battery, and, it'll slide up on the IcyBreeze, and, I think it's going to work. Okay. Well, it's not going to work, and I'll tell you why. It might fit up in this right here, a DeWalt battery. It'll slide up on there, but you've got to think. It says right here on the battery, it's a 12 volt. Okay, if you've got a 20 volt DeWalt battery and you plug it in right here, it's gonna mess your panel up. It's gonna mess your battery up. It's gonna mess up the electronics in your cooler, or it's gonna mess up your battery. It's not made for that. It's not made for this cooler. And I know what you're saying. Oh, a battery's a battery. It's not. Don't believe me? Call IcyBreeze and ask them. All right, guys, don't take my word for it. This is the last video I made on the IcyBreeze, and one of you guys said, hey, could someone tell me if a 20 volt DeWalt battery works with these coolers? The batteries and chargers look to be the same, just rebranded. Well, IcyBreeze commented on the post and said, the case is the same, but our batteries are a custom designed 12 volt made specifically for our application. Lithium batteries have a control board built inside to monitor the state of the batteries to make sure everything stays at safe levels. Power tools are designed for quick burst of high torque energy, where our unit uses a low draw over an extended period. Using a 20-volt battery pack will cause premature wear on the battery pack on the IcyBreeze and could potentially leave that battery in an unsafe state where it could combust. So I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I would not put any other kind of battery in the IcyBreeze, because you've all seen videos of lithium ion batteries catching on fire. Well, you don't want that to happen. You end up burning your house down or your travel trailer down, so it's not worth it. Just buy an extra battery if you need the extended performance. Okay, right here on the IcyBreeze website, it says, how long does the battery last? It says, with a full charge, the 6 amp an hour battery, the small one, will last approximately 4 hours on low, 2.5 hours on medium, and 1.5 hours on high. The 10 amp an hour, the larger battery, will last approximately 6.5 hours on low, 4 hours on medium, and 2.5 hours on high. So, you know, depends on the size of the battery, how old it is, and the condition of the battery. You know, if it's an old battery, then you might not get the full amount of time out of it. So keep that in mind. But that's just a rough estimate right there. And then right here, next question. How long does it last on a hot day? 3 10-pound bags of ice will last approximately 2 to 3 hours depending on the quality of the ice and the outside temperature. If you need longer run times, simply throw in another bag and off you go. So you can top it off with another bag of ice. You know, that gets expensive. So it says that you can take and use large blocks of ice like frozen water bottles, milk jugs, or IcyBreeze has what they call an icy block. I'm gonna take you in the kitchen and show you what I'm talking about. All right, so here in my freezer, I've got one of their icy blocks, and what this is just like a plastic hard shell container that you just take and unscrew the lid, pour water in it, put it in the freezer, and it freezes. So you have to kind of lay it down in the bottom of the cooler, just like this. Make sure your hose is out of the way, and then take and pour ice on top of it, you know, bags of ice. Now the main thing to remember is whenever you pour, or whenever you put blocks of containers of water, blocks of ice like this in there, that, you know, you have enough water in here above that fill line, so, you know, the pump can pick up the cold ice water and circulate it through that heat exchanger, so you get the full cooling effect. So, you know, and, you know, like I said, don't block off any of the tubes, and, you know, don't damage this by dropping this in there and being careless. You know, just lay it in there, pack your ice around it, and, you know, try not to open the cooler up. If you're wanting to use this as just an air conditioner, don't open the lid up every 5 minutes and try to get a drink out of there. Just try to keep it as closed as possible. If you got kids running in and out, opening this thing up, playing in it, the ice is not gonna last nearly as long, because you're introducing hot air into the cooler. So let's say you don't want to have to buy one of those icy blocks from IcyBreeze. Well, you don't have to. You can take any kind of jug, whether it be a milk jug or apple juice or you know, juicy juice, whatever you got, and just put, you know, water in it and freeze it. But make sure you tear the label off, so in case it's a paper label, it doesn't get wet and gooey and get caught in the pump and the cooler right there. You know, because you block off that intake port right there, and it's gonna mess your pump up. It's gonna clog it up. So make sure you don't put any plastic or paper down in there, because, you know, it's just going to peel off whenever it gets wet. Another question that I've been asked is, you know, is the lid, does it fit down on there airtight? No, it's not airtight, but it's tight enough where, you know, you ain't going to have to worry about it just popping open. It fits in there nice and snug, And the way that it latches is whenever you push it down, you can see that that's raised up right in there. And then right here, let me try to get a good view for you. But you can see there's a little spot right there for that to fit in. So when you close it, you know, it doesn't just bounce. It's not going to bounce right up if you're going down the road. You know, it actually takes some power to lift it up. Plus, the lid is pretty heavy because, you know, you've got a battery up here, so that's some weight. You've got the fan on there, so that's some weight. You've got the electrical components and that pad right there, so that's some more weight. So, you know, the lid is kind of top heavy, you know, so once you close it up, you know, it's not gonna come up on its own, trust me. All right, I showed you in the last video that, you know, they do make some accessories that hooks onto this extension hose. So, you know, I showed you before that this piece here extends out. So, you know, it extends out probably a good 18 inches, just guessing. And so, if you want it longer, let's say you've got this sitting on the ground and you're sitting up on the tailgate of your truck and you want this to be able to blow on you, well, they do make an extension. They have the adapter that allows you to hook to this right here. It just presses on there and it just hooks right in. And then they sell a 4-foot extension piece. And yes, I measured it out just to be sure that it is 4 foot. You can see that it expands out. You can twist it around, bend it, and you can do all kinds of stuff with it. It's crazy. But what you want to do is just take it, and either end is the same. So you can just plug it right in there, and you just push it in there, and it stays put. Now, is this gonna stand up on its own with it all extended out, all 4 feet with this extended out? No. When you let go of it, it's gonna fall. You know, you might be able to lay it down like this and kind of play around with it to get it a little bit higher, but it's not gonna stay exactly where you want it. It's flexible. It's meant to be running to, let's say you got a sleeping bag and you're hot. You want to run this inside your sleeping bag to keep you cold. You could use it for that. You know, let's say you keep this in the back seat of your car because your air conditioner went out. You want to run the vent to the front seat and have it blow on you. You could do that. That's what this is for. Let's say you have some dog kennels and you know you want to keep your dogs nice and cold outside. You could run this right there and blow it right on your dog's cage, and you know that's pretty much what this is for, because you know it's a little flimsy and it's not going to stay put. But you know it is flexible, and you know if you don't want that much, you don't have to put that much out there. You can shrink it down and you know make it a little bit easier to deal with. And so if you shrink it down some, then you can get it to kind of bend and lay better. You know, it's still going to move a little bit because it is flexible, but you know, it's a little bit easier to work with when it's shorter. So you're sitting outside, let's say you're in lawn chair, you've got, you know, one vent. Well, your wife or girlfriend is going to want to share the air as well. So what you can do now is they offer a splitter, and you just take that splitter and you push it on there, and you can see that it provides a way to split that air. So you take and put one hose on, you can point this one towards you, put the other hose on, point that one to your girlfriend or wife or whatever. So, you know, or let's say you've got 2 dogs in kennels. Point one going towards one dog, one going to the other. You know, it's just, they use some accessories just to be able to tailor it to whatever you're working with. So, anyways, if you're outside, you know, you just want some cold air to blow on you,
if you know, if you got kids and they got sporting events, you know, this would be a great way for them to come up, grab a drink, and stand in front of the cold air and cool off. So, anyways, I appreciate you watching the video. Like I said, if you got any questions, put it down in the description. I'll try to answer them for you. And please like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good one.